Hey guys, welcome to Florida Vision Technology. My name's Jose. I have a really special guest with me today. He's an eye doctor out of the Orlando area. His name is Dr. Richardson. Dr. Richardson, you with me?
I'm right here. How you doing, guys?
Awesome. I'm doing pretty good. So, Dr. Richardson, we've been working with you for, I believe, a couple of years now. Can you just give us a little background info about yourself?
Sure. I grew up in Puerto Rico. I moved here to the United States when I was 11, and I relocated here to Orlando with my parents. I went to the local high school and I received an Army scholarship. So I took my Army scholarship to the oldest private military school in the state of Vermont, which is called Norwich. It's where ROTC was invented, so we're very proud of that. And then after my time there with a Bachelor in Science and Biology, I went in the Army for 5 years as a transportation officer, where I had the opportunity to serve with the 101st Airborne Division and had tours of combat to Kosovo, to Afghanistan, and to Iraq. So I'm a very proud veteran as well. But
Thank
after
you for your
doing all those
service.
things, I was a little tired, and so I decided rather than, carrying a weapon and doing that for my profession, I wanted to help people, and I've always had interest in the healthcare field. So I went back to school and became an optometrist. And after a few years of getting some practice, on other people's practices, I had the opportunity to set up my own practice here, Eyes of Winter Park in Winter Park, Florida. And we're a couple weeks past the 6-year mark. So we're very happy and
Wow.
excited to continue to provide services here in Winter Park.
Wow. Now, I mean, is there something in your life that made you want to go into that area of health, or did something
Well,
happen that
to
made you
be
choose that?
perfectly honest, it was kind of the easiest one.
Yeah.
When you go to medical school, it's 4 years of school and then internship and residency. And when I got out of the Army, I was looking for something a little quicker. In fact, I was able to return from Iraq early because of starting school. So because of
Yeah,
having the entrance into optometry school, I was able to leave Iraq a little early and go back to school. So it was helpful and beneficial to me.
very cool. So can you tell us a little bit about your optometry practice in Winter Park?
So initially, I opened it as a very general, open practice to anybody and everything. But as I've gone here, I've learned that there are some areas that are not only very fulfilling to me as a doctor because I get to really help people. They're more specialized area of our field, and that's the scleral contact lenses. These are kind of, I even call them prosthetic lenses because they take an irregular surface of the eye or cornea, and using this special lens that we fill with a fluid, we apply it to the eye, and it gets rid of all those irregularities and provides amazing, crisp, sharp vision. So when they're indicated, they change people's lives. I've taken people who are legally blind and brought them almost to 20/20 where they can go get a driver's license, and they cry in my arms for 20, 30 minutes,
That's
because they're
amazing.
so happy with their vision. The other component that I've recently, grown, and with your help, is the area of low vision. Again, an underserved market. I even want to change the name at some point. I don't. Maybe your viewers will help me select a better name. I think low vision is not what it should be called. It should be called something else. And I think we need to get rid of the stigma and the negativity towards these kind of things. The patient exams do take a little longer, and we do have to have some specialized, equipment to show at the end. But I think that the service that we provide is critical. The aging population is growing. That not to target my seniors as being the biggest group of low vision, but they certainly are a large portion of the business, as well as your congenital areas or accidents or other things as
Yeah.
well. So I think we get to service everyone. And you can't go to your corner optometrist for these things. You're gonna have to go to someone like me or someone who's a little bit more specialized, so that they have the equipment, not necessarily the knowledge. We all have similar knowledge, but I use it every day, and they might do other things. So I'm really happy with sclerals and low vision. Those are the two areas I love the most.
Yeah, I'm really interested in. You said it's pronounced squirrela. How'd you pronounce that?
Sclera, Sclera, sclera.
Sclera. Awesome. I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to look into that. So,
So
like
sclera
people
is
who
the
go ahead.
white part of the eye, and so
Mhm.
these lenses land on the white part, and so it does not touch the sensitive cornea. So many people are used to the old hard lenses that were RGPs, but those rest on the cornea. And since the cornea has a lot of nerves, these patients feel them and they're very uncomfortable. They feel like rocks. So these sclera lenses are very large diameter. Like I said, you fill them with a fluid before you apply them. And that way the fluid and the lens becomes the new corneal system. And it's amazing. It
It
really
sounds
does
amazing.
improve vision significantly.
Wow.
Usually 3 to 4 rows of vision at the minimum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And usually people who are getting this procedure done, or this type of lens, what kind of eye conditions do they usually have?
That's a good question. So a lot of times it's keratoconus. Keratoconus is a pointiness of the eye that develops. Some of the research says it's people who excessively rub their eyes. And so if you excessively rub, the theory is that it thins out parts of the cornea and then the cornea bulges. And when it bulges, it just decreases the ability of bending light correctly to the retina. So glasses generally do not fix the problem. And so that's why when you apply the lens and the fluid fills in the irregularities, the lens becomes the new surface of the eye, and now we have a clear, solid optical system again. So keratoconus is one of them. Any other kind of ectasia, if you've had corneal replacements, if you've had corneal scarring or injuries, I've seen these lenses heal up some scars because, again, now your eye is bathed in tears 24/7 with that
Wow.
fluid. So it gets rid of dry eyes. I have a couple of Sjogren's or even some HVID, the host versus graft type of patients who've had those kind of issues. So yeah, they're amazing lenses. And again, I work with a lot of the corneal specialists here in town, so that when they kind of run out of options, I start and see if I can accomplish anything.
It's funny that we're talking about this because I actually, I had detached retina in both eyes, and the method that they used to save my vision was a silicone oil, and that made a calcium buildup on my cornea, and every year I'd have to get that removed. So I know exactly what you're referring to when you're saying, people who rub their eyes, people whose corneas thin out. I mean, that might be something I might want to look into. I might have to come visit you up in Winter Park.
Come on in. A lot of times I just throw a lens, and if you're impressed, we talk about it. If you're not impressed, then you got the experience. But
Yeah.
generally, my lens in the office, even though they're trials, I can simulate kind of what the feeling would be and what the vision
Hmm.
would be, and helps patients go, well, you know what? I do like this option. Here in Florida, we also have a doctor who does some pretty interesting LASIK on some of these corneal problems, Dr. Gulani up in Jacksonville.
Hmm.
So there's a couple people that are really, pushing the envelope on some of these corneal kind of issues instead of just having to replace the cornea altogether. These corneal replacements are complicated surgeries. It requires, a good healing patient, a good graft, a good surgeon. There's a lot of factors involved, where these contact lenses, I just order back and forth with the manufacturer, and all of a sudden we have magic.
Wow. Wow.
But it's worth a
That's
look.
pretty amazing. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And for people who, they're afraid to go see an eye doctor because they're afraid that they're gonna have to go through surgery. I mean, if you're having any of the issues that Dr. Richardson's talking about, I mean, I would highly recommend looking into this, especially if you're in the Orlando Winter Park area. You contact Dr. Richardson or your local eye doctor and see if this is something that you can do. I mean, because I personally, I've never heard of this, and I've been visually impaired for 30 years. So is this like new technology that you guys are using in the field?
So the first contact lens was kind of invented by Leonardo da Vinci. He had the idea to use a glass lens and to put it on the eye some way. Obviously, he didn't perfect it, but the idea of correcting things on the surface of the eye, I mean, anatomically, it makes the most sense. If you have a bad knee, you don't put something on top of the knee. You go in there and you replace the knee. So in this case, glasses have worked beautifully for hundreds of years because it's a simple and easy procedure. I mean,
Hmm.
these lenses have to be fit individually for each person. So to answer your real question, it was probably perfected in the 60s and 70s. But what happens is they were very expensive kits that most providers like myself didn't have access to. You were pretty much tied to a lab. And so those patients would have to travel, let's say, to Pennsylvania to a
Yeah.
lab, have, and stay there a week or two for these lenses to be manufactured specifically for them. Now with the invent of new plastics and new lathes and new technologies, and now with, having had these since the 60s, we've kind of perfected some of these things. I have a kit with 20, 25 lenses. I pick what I find is best. I use some instruments to measure the gap between the lens and the eye, because we don't want any touch. That is critical. The lens do not touch the cornea at all. There's no touch. And so we have to measure to make sure that there's a very thin layer of tears all the way around that cornea, and then that it lands properly, kind of like when your foot strikes the ground. You don't want the toe to hit first. You don't want the heel. You kind of want a nice even stride. So you want the edge of this lens to land nicely. And that's kind of my job. The patient's job is really just to enjoy the experience and the vision, and to learn how to apply these lenses, which after, like anything else, after a few days, it's just practice makes perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. So some, these lenses, are they removable? Like, are they like regular contact lenses where you remove them after so much time and then you replace them, the next
So
day?
you wear them while you're awake. And I literally put it that way. I usually, with my regular contact lens patients, I like them to take them out an hour or two before bedtime. But the reason is that these fit on the surface of the eye and they cause some mild swelling. So having that blink time at the end with no lens on allows that cornea to go back to its, healthy, normal state. It's subclinical swelling and dryness, but, it's good to give the eyes a break at the end of the day. With these scleral lenses, you're filled with the tears. So your eye is constantly bathed in tear, and I'm not touching the cornea. So you can wear these all the way up to bedtime. But no, sleeping in no lenses, I don't recommend sleeping in any contact lenses. And I know the FDA has approved some lenses for sleep, but I don't think the convenience of sleeping in lenses is a convenience at all. I think it's detrimental to the health of the eyes. There's even a technology where you sleep in hard lenses to reshape the cornea. And a lot of doctors and a lot of the research says that this is a good way to correct mild myopia and even reverse the effects of progressing myopia. But I personally am not a huge fan of sleeping in any lenses.
Yeah. Yeah. And your clients, your patients, I mean, what's the age range that you're seeing that are coming in for
Listen,
these type of
it's pretty
procedures?
cool because in school, I remember doing a 6-month-old with contact lenses. Their vision was so bad that we felt it was important to give them plus prescription early on for the development portion of life. And so I'm not afraid to do lenses as long as I have a cooperative parent team. So I've
Yeah.
done them early. Scleral lenses, I would guess anywhere from the 20s on up is generally the average age of my scleral patients. But really, injuries, corneal replacements, keratoconus, anything that can happen throughout life can make you a good candidate for these lenses.
Wow. Wow. And you said that was 6 months old?
Yeah, we did a 6-month-old with soft lenses, and the parent obviously had to put the lenses in. In that particular case, because it's hard, then we did leave the lenses in for about a week without taking them out. So they would sleep in them. But we would
Wow.
do heavy lubricant drops. And again, the idea is that if we don't have good vision system when we start, development can be delayed. And a
Yeah.
lot of learning, happens through the eyes. And so if we can maximize that as early as possible, then I think it's worth a conversation and a discussion. Obviously, everything has risk, but risk can be mitigated. That's what I learned in the Army. We do incredibly dangerous things, but we have a lot of measures in place to kind of minimize that risk. And so in that particular case, I think the benefit of vision was far greater than the risk of wearing a lens for a week at a time.
Wow. That's truly amazing. I mean, when I think about technology, I mean, obviously this type of lens is a type of technology, and I just never thought of it like that before. I think of technology, I'm thinking like electronics and things of that nature. I've never thought about these
Yeah,
type of lenses. I didn't even know they
what's
existed.
what's challenging with video and these kind of technologies is that the eyes are very complicated. Most of us open our eyes in the morning and everything kind of works perfectly, to the point where there's some people who never ever come to the eye doctor. Their vision is so good. So we take it for granted. Those same people would go to the dentist 2 or 3 times to make sure their teeth are clean. You can live
Mhm.
without teeth. You kind of struggle a lot harder if you don't have vision. You can obviously live without vision. I mean, there's
Yeah.
plenty of people who do that and do that very well and with limited vision, but you know, not to be cruel, but I'm sure if I offered every one of those patients vision, everybody would say, "Oh yes, please."
Yeah, listen, me as a blind person, I'll tell you right now, I'll be in front of that
So,
line.
so again, you know, not to be cruel, I know we all have these limitations, but
Yeah,
certainly, I mean, vision. If we can maximize it, if we can protect it, if we can conserve it, if we can make it last longer, then that's what I need to do. But to finish my point is, there's 8 to 10 million connections between each eye and the brain, and then the
wow,
brain receives all those inputs not only from one eye but from two eyes, and they're moving and they're focusing. So there's just so many things that are happening all at the same time for us to just kind of see the picture that we see. I kind of like to joke and say it's an amazing structure because it takes a light energy, converts it into a chemical, and then
mm,
the brain takes the chemical and makes a picture out of it. Well, what camera on the planet does that?
yeah, yeah, wow.
So
It's so crazy how people figure that out. Like science is amazing, you know.
and then it's
I always,
inverted and reversed and all that business. And again, the brain is the powerful computer. That's the other thing I say is that we all have very sophisticated computers, but there's some people who are whizzes and can use all the features, and there's some people who only text and do email. So the brain is just as capable in all of us. It's what we tap into, what we're able to learn, how aggressive are we to do these things. So I feel that most of us have the capability, but we don't necessarily use the computer to its fullest potential.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So do you have an optical shop or
Absolutely.
like what's your office like?
So I mean, my office it's 1,200 square feet, so I have a small space, but I built it out very efficiently. I do run 2 exam rooms. One is kind of the main room, and the other one is more my low vision room with all the devices like I see there behind you, and you can see here behind me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also run a lab, so I fabricate my own glasses and I do custom eyewear here. And so the optical, has about 600 frames, all kinds of price ranges. I kind of have the illusion to go full on boutique and have very expensive things, but then it cuts out people. So I've chosen to really have a wide variety of everything. And then we do full contact lenses, and I like to say I see them from birth to death. So I have a
Wow.
few centenarians. I do a lot of work at some of the local nursing and assisted living facilities where I have privileges. So I go and do exams there when they're necessary. So I think I've tried to take it out to the patients. The one thing I haven't done well is these kind of things, is sharing myself with the world. I tend to be kind of in my own little capsule as an introvert and don't put myself out there and don't market myself like I probably should. But 6 years in, my reputation is solid and people just keep whispering and talking about me. And that's all I can ask for. I think that's the most flattering, is a referral. That means I
Yeah.
did my job right, that they felt good enough to send me to someone else. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So we have a question in the chat. Someone's asking, how is a
Right?
low vision examination different from a regular eye exam?
Cool. So since vision is a little bit limited, we tend to do things with a trial frame instead of that big device with all the lenses built in. To maximize their ability to move their head and use eccentric viewing and those kind of things, we use a trial frame. And that brings up another point. A lot of patients don't have central vision, so they end up having weird head positions, or to try to achieve the absolute best image that they can accomplish, because there's damage to certain parts of their retina or their ocular system.
Mm,
So I think it's really looking at those key differences. Your typical optometrist will spend 5 or 10 minutes with you. I spend 45 minutes to an hour. So we're really looking at things carefully. We're measuring things a lot more detailed. And even a row or two of vision can mean a huge difference to my patients, whereas a regular myope who just wears contacts might not even notice the difference, right? So it's really looking at the data more carefully. And then finally, and that's where you come in, is pairing up the disability with the right device for the task that they're trying to accomplish. And I love the plumber kind of conversation, because a plumber doesn't come to your house with one tool, right?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
have a bag or a chest or a truck full of tools to handle the job. So in low vision and some of my other, scleral lenses or such, sometimes having more than one device or aid or tool is going to be critical for that patient to do what they need to do, especially if they're still in education or if they're still working. These patients have the highest vision demands. And again, my job is to maximize. I'm not God. I'm not going to create vision. There's no magic or hokey pokey going on here. But again, we have so many different tools and devices. Matching that right one is the reason you're coming to a specialist, so that you're not at the store guessing, oh, do I need a 3X or do I need a 7X or do I need a Mac? It gets complicated and overwhelming and expensive.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so I have another question here in the chat room. Someone's asking, how does someone know if they have low vision?
That's a great question. I think the newspaper is where I usually kind of start. If you struggle to get it done on the newspaper, you automatically have a little bit of trouble. Now, I'm talking with your best correction. If you take your glasses off and you can't read or you can't see, that's cheating. I mean, with your absolute best correction. I want you to, the very best that you can possibly see, and you still struggle to watch TV or to look at, newspaper or a book. That's how simple. I know that there are some of my colleagues who make this incredibly scientific and precise, and I think there's value to that when they teach me, but I don't think that that's what I need to push down to my patients. So I digest all this knowledge and information and then try to really bring it down to the most basic of information to keep it simple, stupid. I like the KISS rule. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, that's how, if I'm visiting your doctor's office, that's how I prefer. I want you to keep it as simple as possible so I can continue to follow.
Now, every now and then I have an engineer sit down, and that engineer has those really tough, hard questions. Listen, we'll battle it out. But I find that most people are, here's the last thing that I never expected is I do a lot of counseling too. I need to have people understand what their disability is and how they can continue to function perfectly with these new changes in their vision. I mean, there's something to be said when you've had, problems with your eyes all your life versus immediately not being able to read a book. So it's not that one is better or worse, but the head aspect, the accepting what's happening, the changes, the coming in here and actually trying some of these devices. I've had patients that I see them a year or two later and they finally come back and said, you know what, you were right. I should have done it then, but I'm here now. And we just, we move forward. Move forward.
I always tell people they got to live for today and, not worry about tomorrow. Speaking of like these different situations where people who are low vision, they're in these situations. Can you give me an idea or an example of a device that someone with low vision would use?
So one of my favorites is the Smart Lux. It's a product from Eschenbach, and this thing has this one
here. Just in case we have any viewers that cannot see, can you describe what the Smart Lux looks like?
Absolutely. So it's a video magnifier. I find that the video magnifiers are kind of the future. They may be a tiny bit more expensive in the couple $300 to $500 range, different models, different manufacturers, but these have variable magnification so that if you need things bigger, you can. If you need them smaller, you can. They will also change the contrast of what you're trying to do up close. So if you liked a little bit of the yellow background, or if you liked to invert the colors white on black to black on white, you can do all those things with one little device rather than having to carry 4 or 5. Now, a lot of people today have the new smartphones, and smartphones certainly have the ability to do those, but there's something to be said about a device that's designed for just that task. So I have some patients who don't want to pull out their phone for all those things and just prefer to have this in addition to. So again, asking questions, getting to what the true task is, and accomplishing it. But this one I probably sell the most of, only because of how much, it can accomplish. It really
Mhm.
does a little bit of everything. And you can even do a little bit of distance vision with this thing. You can cheat a little bit and get a couple feet out there. So even though it's really a near tool, I've had
Yeah.
some patients get creative and use this thing in other ways. So that's probably one of my favorite devices, especially obviously for up close, is magnification. But you
Yeah.
can't argue that the CCTVs, though, like the human wear right here, this is the bad boy. It's a tablet based, so it does everything. I mean, you can't
Nice.
argue what these can do, especially if I have a few patients who are into accounting and they work with numbers and spreadsheets. I mean, there has to be a way for these poor patients to get it done, and I think the
Yeah.
CCTVs do that. And also for my students, the portability, I like the Humanware Connect series, the Connect 12 especially,
Oh yeah,
because
it's
it
a really
has,
good one.
yeah, I mean, it's portable, it's tablet based. Most people already know how to use the Android system, so it's very easy for them to transition into that product. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Asking someone to learn some of these things when it requires 6 to 8 hours on each device, I like to keep the expectations clear. They take this home and they try it for an hour and throw it to the side and give up. That's not going to help anybody. There has to be some commitment. And I have a complete full-on money-back warranty. I don't want anybody to buy anything that they don't need. If you give it an honest 2 weeks and the thing just didn't do what you needed to do, you bring it in and we talk about why it didn't work, so I can give you a better one. Obviously, it missed the mark and didn't get it right, so I take it back, I resell it to someone else, and I sell you, something that might be more helpful for you. Or maybe we decide that you don't need anything. It just depends.
Yeah. So, people come in, they take this technology home, they try it out, but what if they need training?
So listen, training is why our military is great. Again, I'm a veteran, so I always kind of use the military as a comparison, but you can't go and conquer the world if you haven't trained. So absolutely, training is critical. The first, when you're in the exam room, we play with it. When you pick it up, we do some basic training. And then I always say, you have to give it a couple hours before you really know what questions you have for me. So I like them at that point to take it home for a week or two. And then we can set up a follow-up appointment to, what, I really love this device. It changed my life, but I really want to do this other thing. So either we figure out how to use that device differently, or maybe we talk about a new device that's actually needed now that you have that one. So I think training and communication is critical, so that we pair up, again, the right technology for the right task at hand.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that. So Dr. Richardson, right now with the whole COVID-19 situation going on, I see a lot of people asking online, people who wear glasses, here in the state of Florida, they're saying that you need to wear a face mask, a face shield. And a lot of people are saying that when they do this, that they're finding that their glasses or whatever they're wearing over their eyes is fogging up. For our clients out there, or our listeners, our viewers who are watching this that do wear glasses and they're wearing face shields, whether it's to go to work, go to the supermarket, do you have any advice for them that, that could prevent their glasses from fogging up from wearing those type of face wear?
Yeah, so we're getting into some tough territory, right? There are all kinds of varieties of guidelines out there.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I will say is that it is a air droplet flying kind of a thing. So protecting your mouth is going to be critical. Now, if the mask is not of a certain degree, and I think N95 is what everybody uses as their kind of gold standard, okay?
Mm-hmm.
N95, what I want people to think is that it protects you and it protects the other person. Most of the masks, including surgical masks, are only protecting people out. Particles can still get in, they just won't get out. And
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why we kind of like both people to have a mask. If I have a mask and you have a mask, then they don't both have to be N95. But
Yeah.
the moment I have a mask and you don't have a mask, now mine has to be N95, or I'm actually at risk from the person who doesn't have a mask.
Correct.
So wearing a bandana, wearing a mask, everything is cool to protect others. That's not protecting you.
Wow. I didn't even know that. Didn't
Keep
even
in
think
mind
about that.
also, when you put your mask on and off. If you're not careful with that, let's say you ran into me and I have it and I'm talking to you and now it's stuck to the front of your mask, but you touch the mask to take it off and you flung it over and you put it on a second or third time. So, frequent replacement or disinfection of these masks needs to be considered as well. If it doesn't have metal, you can put it in the microwave with like a bath of water, like put a Tupperware container with hole on the lid, put the mask on top, and the vapor from the water will actually kill any bacteria. So if it doesn't have metal, microwave it. I think that's the best way. You can reuse them. But if it has metal, obviously you can't microwave it. You're going to have to find your own way or replace it or whatever.
Yeah. And that's
now how
really
they
important
fit.
to know. Yeah.
Because you were saying, some people are struggling with how the masks fit. The same way that a pair of glasses sometimes doesn't fit well and you have to bring it to us for adjustments, these masks are going to be a reality of life. You're going to have to find which brand, which shape, which size. Once you find the one that kind of fits best for you, that's the one that you're going to go with. So I personally am a fan of the masks. I don't wear gloves. I think if we wash our hands frequently, again, with the gloves, let's say you're wearing a glove, you touch it, now you took the glove off wrong, or you touched your cell phone or something like this. So we have to keep it realistic. Even here in my office where I'm trying to be extra clean, I find myself, I don't even touch my phone throughout the day. It's like, I don't want to infect or touch certain things. And then before I leave, I try to clean absolutely everything. Between patients, I'm cleaning everything. And it's become a little bit ridiculous, but I don't want my patients to feel like we're not taking care of them. So initially, I guess we're going to all freak out and do it this way. Eventually, and I don't know when eventually will be, we'll bring the measures down a little bit. So that's a tricky question.
Yeah.
But in my honest opinion, I think the mask is what's critical for both parties.
Yeah. And another question in the chat, what advice would you give to somebody that is afraid to go visit a doctor, an eye doctor, or an optometrist that might be suffering from low vision?
Sure. Well, listen, I would ask, why are you afraid? Keeping in mind that, being a low vision specialist means I am designed and prepared to handle your questions and concerns. So you're probably going to have a better experience with me than you've ever had with any other doctor or eye care professional, because my only purpose is to improve your life. So I would say I apologize that you're feeling a little hesitant, but and it is something that's going on with doctors these days, where we don't have relationships with them anymore. But in the low vision field, again, if I spend 45 minutes to an hour with you, we're going to get to know each other pretty good. Yeah. And again, if we're going to use multiple devices and do some training and try to figure out how I can best improve all aspects of life, then we get to know each other pretty cool. And I don't do anything negative. I'm not going to be bearing bad news. I'm always in the positive direction. You go to your retinal specialist and you lost vision. It's all negative. They're taking care of it and doing what they have to do. But you come here and everything is about improvement. So I would say, if you're going to freak out on a doctor, I'm the wrong one.
Yeah. And, guys, it's really important. If you, for whatever reason, your vision is decreasing and you go see someone like Dr. Richardson, like you said, he's trying to improve your vision. So if you're afraid that you're going to have to give up your license or you're going to have to do things a little differently, that might be the case. But if you could get some of that vision restored, like with those lenses he's talking about, what do you have to lose?
Right. And driving is the hardest thing that I have to do. Okay. Taking someone's driving privilege is a humongous deal, and I take it incredibly serious. In this country, unless you live in the major hubs like LA or, New York, we don't have very good, public transportation. So driving and independence are kind of tied together in this country. The American dream, we all have 8 cars in our families, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
So I truly apologize that sometimes we have to be the bearer of those kind of bad news, but I generally try to do it in a very positive way and say, listen, I know that you feel like you may have sufficient vision to drive, but if you are out there and you get into an accident and you hurt my relative, I'm going to be upset that you weren't mature enough to accept some of these changes that happen. Now, again, I didn't do that to you, so I might be the bearer of the bad news, but I'm not the cause of those bad news. My job is absolutely to help and to try to improve and maximize what we have. So, yeah, taking a driving privilege is the hardest thing that I have to do, and I've had to do it a handful of times. And admittedly, probably 50-50. Half the time it went well, and half the time they probably wanted to punch me in the face and leave and sue me and tell me I'm the worst doctor on the planet. Listen, I get it, but I also have to look out for the health of my other patients out there driving. You know, driving is a dangerous task. And so low light, different conditions, people come in and out of nowhere. The only good news in the horizon, and I think within some of our younger patients' lifetimes, is that cars will be driving themselves soon.
Oh
And
yeah,
we have
I can't wait.
access to, Uber and Lyft and these, which even though they're a little bit of money, saving on your car and your car insurance can probably pay for the Lyft and the Uber that you need to do what you have to do if you're efficient. So I would say that that's one thing that we're excited is changing, because it's definitely getting better. And
Yeah,
driverless cars are within 10 years, be honest. I
yeah,
have a
yeah.
patient who works on them, and he says it's 3 years. I'm going to give it 10 to be like mass out in the reality.
I was hoping by 2025, but I mean, if you say 10
Again,
years, I mean, that's still pretty
no,
good.
listen, 2025 is very viable. What he was telling me, and just a side note, is that initially these driverless cars are going to be like the old taxis. It's going to be one company that owns 100 cars, and you just pay that company for usage as needed.
Wow.
And then you program it with your phone. Let's say I have to be at work at 8:30. The car is waiting for me at 8 to pick me up, takes me to work, and then the moment it drops me off, it goes help someone else out. So you don't own the car, you're paying for the service of the car.
Wow. That'd be
That's
super
what's
cool.
proposed. That's what these
Yeah.
companies are proposing.
Yeah. So for people who live in the Winter Park area, how can they get a hold of you? If they want to come see you, do they need to have a referral from their primary? Like, how does that work? What are the steps they
No,
need to
you can
take?
you can walk in off the street. You can call in and make an appointment. You can come in referred from your retinal doctors. All of these guys know who I am now. I'm starting to get a good footprint here in town. Call me, complain, cry, do whatever you need to do. Just come in and receive the help that you need. And if it's not for me, find someone in your local area. If you can't find someone in your local area, then maybe contact me and I'll see if I can dig up some sources. There's Facebook pages that we join so that if I need hey, there's sclerals needed in Georgia, we can try to find a doctor. Oh yeah, I do that. Why don't you send them to me? And so we doctors do have a little bit of a network that we can help each other in different areas if we don't live in that area.
There you go. So how do people contact you? How can they get a hold of you?
So my number is 407-672-2020. I've got to have the 2020.
Was that on purpose? Did you specifically request that number?
Absolutely. You got to have it, right? I mean, and this year is 2020, so it's like,
Oh,
it's
there you go.
perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, that's that. The address is 2285 Aloma Avenue in Winter Park. And I do have a wonderful website, eyesofwinterpark.com. There's tons of information. There's telemedicine on my website if you need to get a hold of me and do a kind of a consult this way through the camera. I have texting features through there too. So I've tried to make it as easy as possible. Again, I also work with the Division of Blind Services. They refer folks to me, and we work hand in hand with Lighthouse of Central Florida as well. I'm trying to see if I start moving out to the Daytona area as well. I see some need out there. So just listen, there's only one Francisco Richardson that I know of. So go
There you
ahead and
go.
Google me up and you'll figure me out.
Yeah. Wow. Very cool. I do have one more question I want to ask you before you go, because
Sure.
you said that you do some of your appointments via camera like this. How does that work exactly?
So there's a system called Doxy that I have put through my website. And so it's kind of like Zoom for classes, but it's designed for telemedicine. It even has a way for me to bill you for the consult and all those kind of things. I I haven't billed too many of them because I find that it's mostly people asking me questions, and if I need to see it, then I just have people come to the office and I charge for that visit. But it's been kind of, I think most people want to see the face-to-face interaction. They want to know that I'm a person, that what I look like, I guess. So I think there is some value to the face-to-face part, even if we can't be, in front of one another. And maybe that's one of the, if we start to think about some of the positive things of COVID-19, that could be one of them, is that we're going to
Mhm.
learn what things we can do remotely and what things we can. I think some people are even shopping their groceries with deliveries and these things. So I think it's an opportunity for all of us to get a little bit more techie and more geeky and learn some of these new features and things that are available that have been available for a while, but they weren't really necessary. And now,
Mhm.
if you feel you can do it this way and not have to go to the office, it saves you time, saves you gas, saves you energy, time from work, all these kind of things. So there is some value to it.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree. Well, Dr. Richardson, I appreciate you joining us today. I know you're busy. We heard your phone ring in the background a few times, so I appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us and give us some information. For those of you guys out there, if you're interested in contacting Dr. Richardson, I will have his information in our YouTube channel. If you're listening to us on podcast, we will include the information there as well. But I highly recommend that if you're in the area and you have questions or need to see him, I highly recommend contacting him. I've been to his office a few times. It's a very nice place. Good restaurants in the area. I highly recommend visiting him. He's a really nice guy. He knows what he's talking about. We've been working with him for the past couple of years. He's a good friend of Florida Vision. And yeah, so you have anything else you want to say before
Jose,
we
thanks
wrap it
for
up?
having me. I really appreciate the time.
Of
And if
course.
anybody, again, has any questions, they can call, they can email, whatever it takes, and I'll be happy to help them out. I think this is a team effort. If you know someone who needs my help, send them to me, and then
Will do.
we'll go from there.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's Dr. Richardson. I'm Jose with Florida Vision Technology, and we are going to be signing out.